If I seem happy, folks, it's because we are winning. What a huge day for British Columbia, and what a difference 24 hours make. For so many of us, we have been warning for years and years and years that the Safe Supply program would only benefit cartels and would be a pathway for addiction for young people, especially when the government was going out of its way to say that addiction with children should be treated as though the children are adults in terms of the wishes of the child. So if a 10 or a 12-year-old child got hooked on hard drugs because somebody gave them to them, or they found some drugs at a park and took them and didn't realize what it was and became addicted, the government is giving the authority and the power to the child to stay addicted. The government of British Columbia has been giving them needles. The government of British Columbia has been giving them naloxone, information on how to use drugs, and encouraging them to use drugs with other people and injection sites. I have warned that this is psychotic and absolutely going to ruin the lives of children. So now we have the Safe Supply program that David Eby is walking back. Yesterday he wanted to talk all about Trump tariffs and make everything going on in British Columbia disappear, and the singular focus of everything that we do will be about Trump's tariffs. In fact, he was so light on his policies that reporters who are usually meekish in the political scrums were actually asking him, well, what exactly do you intend on doing for British Columbians over the next 4 years? David Eby kept giving platitudes and speeches about World War II. Okay? Today, David Eby is saying the end of the Safe Supply handout to cartels is over. Okay? First of all, we have to not take what he says with a grain of salt, because this is a man who has lied about everything. It has to be enforced. We have to actually see that the money has stopped flowing and the pills have stopped flowing, because David Eby was the one who told us he would crack down on public drug use. But he didn't, did he? He won the election, and then all of a sudden he gave himself and his buddies a pay raise and then walked away from the table and just left everything the way it was, and getting worse, because the people who were listening to him and were worried knew that he was hollow in what he was saying and that they still had free reign to do what they wanted. So folks, today is huge. We all should be celebrating. This should be a massive celebration for everybody who not only loves the truth, but wants to see children protected from predators who will use pills to enslave those child into all kinds of the worst things in society. I think we all know where hard drugs lead people. So the last thing you want to do is bring up a generation of young people hooked on drugs. Think about it, folks. If it's $1.79 for a chocolate bar, but you can buy a dilly, which is hydromorphone, you could buy that for $1. You can imagine that, for kids, especially if they're looking for an escape, or they're just feeling depressed, or they just want to feel better, they go and they can get a pill for $1. Right? Think about that. You can't turn around and go buy a 12-pack of beer for $1. And the 12-pack of beer, yeah, that might make the kid sick, okay? But the 12-pack of beer is far less likely to kill a child than giving them an opioid that's 5 times more powerful than morphine. That's what hydromorphone is. They give it to people with spinal injuries and reconstructive surgeries, folks. So the concept that it was okay to give this to kids is insane. And that's why I'm saying we need actual criminal investigations and charges into what happened. I warned in 2018 that Safe Supply would be diverted and used by organized crime, just like prescriptions were being abused before, when doctors were handing out prescriptions like candy to anybody who wanted them. That's what led to the addiction crisis. David Eby ran, folks, okay? He ran on going against Big Pharma and suing them. In fact, David Eby did sue them. But magically, the amount of money that he settled for was incredibly low, considering the loss of life, the ongoing crisis, and the lack of available rehab beds in British Columbia. What did David Eby do instead? Like a crackhead, he took all the money that came in from the lawsuit and basically handed it all back to Big Pharma for safe supply drugs. He sued them for calling their drugs safe and not addictive, and then gave them the money right back right away in the first year of his safe supply program. That's David Eby for you. So even though he says he might be cutting off the cartels from the taxpayer tit, that is likely not happening, folks. It might take a year to 2 years for us to get the full information on what's going on. But if this is one avenue through safe supply, what else are the cartels allowed to do thanks to David Eby on the taxpayer dime? We don't know. And that is why we need a public inquiry and not just criminal investigations. The public inquiry can deal with the broader aspect of why our reports have been ignored, why reasonable steps have not been taken to secure the points of entry into this province to stop the mass slaughter of British Columbians.